Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. We're live this evening. This is April the 11th, 2018. I can't believe this is April already. In December, I said to everyone, keep thinking spring because the cold weather is coming and whatever. And now this is spring, and we still have cold weather, and it's raining. Oh, well, a little bit of rain now. And we're live here in Highland Park at 7:30 in the evening. And I think they said snow sometime this week or next. With snow at the beginning of the week. This is April. Anyway, I hope your day was good. And this evening will be better. And I hope for your entertainment and education and information, you do contact me. I invite you to my YouTube. Here's my YouTube address. And if you have any questions to contact me, either regarding this evening's program or a program you'd like me to have, or anything that your heart's desire, and we'd be happy to have you on the program, a live program, and give your point of view, or if you have something that's bothering you, that people aren't listening, we give you a platform on which to speak, only asking that you do show proof of whatever you're requesting, and that it is honest and true, because this program deals only in honesty and truth. Not what you think is true, but what is true. So without any further ado, how about that? Let's lead into Ken Dukowski, who is the truth and wonderful legal brain, mind, and compassionate personality. So welcome. We haven't seen you for a while.
Well, thank you. There are two things I'd like to call your attention to.
Sure.
One is a 1926 case, and it's particularly applicable now with all the stuff that's going on in the news and the special counsel and a lot of the commentary that's going on. The case is Conley versus General Construction. It's 269 U.S. 385. Particularly at page 391. That's a very interesting case because it lays the groundwork of our core values. The core value being that we are not like the National Socialists, we're not like the Communists. When we put laws down, they're not traps for the unwary. They're not something that you're going to catch people. It's not gotcha moments. Our Supreme Court said in the Conley case that if the common ordinary man on the street cannot understand a statute, it's unconstitutional. Now, you can point out, like my wife did, the tax law. Who understands the tax?
No one
Who understands the tax law?
No.
But there are modifications of it. The basic tax law is very simple. You earn money,
they take it away. That's simple.
Common man on the street can understand that?
Absolutely.
Okay. The second thing that everyone should read is an article that appeared in the New Yorker. And that article involved elder cleansing or the human trafficking, which is in elderly, which has become a very, very big thing. Now, when you and I talk about your mother's case, or we talk about the Sykes case, or the Stone case down in Florida, or even Dr. Sugar's mother's case, everyone looks at it and says, well, those are all anomalies.
No.
But they're not. And for the first time in a long time, there's a little undercurrent of the media getting interested. And it came out of the New Yorker on their October 9th, 2017 edition at page 38, 48, an article by Rachel Aviv, A-V-I-V, called The Takeover. And she outlines the saga of Mr. and Mrs. North, who ran into a private professional guardian by the name of Parks. And you can Google the article, and the article comes up very nicely. You can buy a copy of the New Yorker, and that is even better. And it shows step by step exactly what is happening all over the country. It is almost unbelievable. It is something that should never happen. And people don't understand that what is happening is there's so much money here. There's, what was the amount? I had it written down here because it kind of struck me. There's $273 billion under guardianship. That's from the New Yorker article. So we're talking a lot of money, and we're talking about a fraud that is $19 billion a year. Now this is, everyone believes they have to have health care. Well, that's wonderful, but where's the health care going? How much of this is being stolen? There is a 700% fraud surcharge. You go in the hospital, they buy their aspirin by the railroad car full.
I've never heard
Maybe
of
it costs them a tenth of a cent. And how much do you pay on your bill? $9, $10?
Well, when you buy so much, it's the volume that pays off, you know.
And we talk about an
But
opiate.
of course, it's resale, see.
Right, but we talk about opiate
Yeah.
crisis. Well, let me tell you something. Part of the opiate crisis, a big part of it, is through this health care and through these nursing homes. Now, one of the things that happened, I think I told you about the last time I was here, was the Andy Ostrowski case.
Yeah.
Andy is an attorney in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and he had a little bit of a problem. He did not like the fact that a judge who was trafficking in children, kids would come into his court, and he'd send them out to a private penal facility,
Yeah.
and he'd get a kickback from
Sure.
them.
How many kids is it? Yeah.
They sent him to jail, but they really weren't very serious about it, because as soon as the media took their eyes off of it, they were getting ready to release him. Well, Andy got upset by it and stirred up a little bit of fuss and was going to run a protest. They didn't want that to happen. So somebody filed a petition asking Andy, telling the world that Andy was a danger to himself. And apparently in some areas of the country, as indicated by Andy's case, and also this case outlined in the New Yorker,
Yeah.
so all they have to do is go in before the court and say, so-and-so's a danger to themselves, and issue a warrant. Police come take you out of your house. They take you to a facility with a syringe full of chemicals. They can turn you into a zombie, take you before a court, and we have a problem. Now, this is happening. It actually happened to Andy, but Andy was on social media, so people saw him, including an attorney in Texas, who raised holy hell. And she got Andy released from it, and also kept Andy from being injected. And this is part of the problem. Now, one of the reasons that I mentioned the Connolly case was the fact that Illinois has a statute on guardianship. And I don't know if we've talked about the statute or not. I think we have. But the statute itself has some words in it. And I'm calling your attention to 755 ILCS 5-11A-3B. And that statute I want to read to you because it is so clear as to what's involved. Guardians shall be utilized only as is necessary to promote the well-being of the person with a disability, to protect him from neglect, exploitation, or abuse, and to encourage development of his maximum self-reliance and independence. Guardianship shall be ordered only to the extent necessitated by the individual's actual mental, physical, or adaptive limitations. Can that be any clearer?
It's pretty clear to me.
It should be clear to everybody, but it's not clear to our judges in a guardianship
Well,
case.
that's the problem.
Now, if it's not clear to them, and they're going against the specific mandate of the legislature, something's going on. Something's going on that's not kosher.
Well, it's willful intent right there.
It's criminal conduct. It's the same criminal conduct that occurred in Florida with this public official who got almost 5 years in jail. It's going on everywhere. It cannot succeed without that occurring. And this is what we have to do something about, because it's attacking our core values. It is turning Illinois, Michigan, Florida, Arizona into fascist states. The very same thing that was going on in the gulags in Russia are going on right here. If I am not safe, if someone could go in and take me out of my home with a simple affidavit and get me a guardianship, there's problems. And this is what's happening to people all over.
Well, whose attention do we bring this to?
Well, I'll tell you.
Ken, we've brought this in front of the public for years now, absolutely for years now. So it seems to be piecemeal, a little here, then it's quiet, then a little more somewhere else, then it's quiet. So, I mean, do we need, and I'm sure we do, headlines to be able to show the reader, the public?
Well, we have to do something. Now, you remember a show that was on television called Boston Legal?
Boston Legal, yeah.
And you remember how they take all these issues as to homosexuality, transvestite, all the rest of them, and they'd show the issues, and then some benevolent judge would rule in accordance with the most liberal ideas. Well, they did a program on guardianship, and it just happens to be, I think it's on channel 274.
Cable 274.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I happen to pick it up, and I've been watching these reruns,
Reruns,
sometimes
for sure.
3 and 4 a day. And now that I'm retired,
Forcibly.
yeah. Now that I'm retired, I watched one of the programs. They came up with a program on guardianship. And this Alan Shore, who's the lawyer, gets a client who has a guardianship problem. And he does what all good lawyers do. He goes to court to try and resolve the problem. It seems the lady really doesn't need a guardian. But the court, like the Illinois courts, appointed a guardian. And of course, the guardian, the first thing he does is grab all the money. And now they're selling the house. They're doing all kinds of things to get as much money in the guardian's pocket as possible and pay off everybody else in sight. So he goes into court, and we get a Chicago-style judge.
Corrupt.
Get nowhere.
That's right, corrupt.
So now that point, you get a commercial, and I'm waiting with bated breath to see what
Come back,
what he's
sure.
going to do, because here are people who think about these things all the time, come up with these wonderful solutions.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got something good. And then it looks like there's some other program. Somebody breaks into the Guardian's house, and they beat the hell out of the Guardian.
Oh, really?
That was the solution.
Oh.
Helen Shore comes up and offers the Guardian an opportunity to avoid further beating by resigning as Guardian.
Well, it looks easy
So,
on TV.
so there is the solution that the fiction writer comes up with. Now, there come up other things over here. There's an article here that followed the New Yorker article, because the New Yorker article raised this to a level of respectability. All of a sudden, people who heretofore whatever the establishment said was good echoed it, and of course, anybody who said the judges involved in the guardianship, some of them are corrupt. The lawyers are corrupt. The Illinois Department of the Illinois Public Guardian, is corrupt. The article in the Tribune showing that they worked with Isformis when Isformis was taking people off of Skid Row or wherever they were, the Lower Wacker Drive, and they were taking him, putting him into one of his nursing homes.
Yeah.
Most people looked at them and look at us and say, a bunch of nuts. Well, the New Yorker article gave us respectability because it's a major
issue.
It's a major publication.
I'm sure.
And the fact is, there have been 4 or 5 GAO reports, Government Accounting Office reports to Congress, that detail exactly the same thing. Of course, Congress doesn't read them. And our politicians, well, you know about my plea to Senator Durbin.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what people get. Now, when push comes to shove, these politicians who are also getting money out of the thing, are part of the conspiracy, have an easy way of dealing with it. Most people are very happy with it. They pass legislation. And of course, if legislation isn't enforced, it's meaningless. And we have some wonderful legislation. You can read this legislation till the cows come home.
Well,
and if you read it, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy.
Because you're being protected.
Yeah,
That's what the legislation says to do. Yeah.
Except it doesn't mean anything.
No, there's no backbone to it.
And when they talk about, when Senator Durbin talked about saving Social Security, he wasn't saving it for Mary Sykes. He was saving it for the 2 guardians who were getting paid out of that money. Because every dime, $3 million plus whatever they stole from Medicare, went into other people's hands. Well, the New Yorker article came out, and they felt they had to file some type of response. And there was an article that came out, I think it's in Money Magazine of October 20th, written by Mark Miller, called column, with U.S. elder abuse in the spotlight, a look at guardians. And I took out the article, and I read about all the things I wanted to tell you. And what I wanted to do was, I wanted to get to the point of, what do you do about it? Be honest about the risk and the need to plan in advance. Whenever possible, execute legal power of attorney documents for your finances and health care. Indeed, that's their solution. You go to your attorney and you set up powers of attorney and all sorts of joint tenancies, whatever.
But that doesn't work.
Of course it doesn't work.
Because the judge overrides it.
Overrides it.
Absolutely.
And this article doesn't say that.
See, the judge
But
overrides it.
what it does do, and what they're doing, is they're saying to you, you didn't do your homework, so you are a prey, and you did it yourself. And that's where we're coming from, and that's their solution and their answer.
There's no protection. You go to an attorney to have him draw up a will and make sure that everything is to whom you wish to leave it, or family, or whatever. But that's not safe. I don't know what is safe.
It would be safe if we had an honest judiciary. Now, we have honest judges, and
well, the 18th floor.
The judges involved in this thing
is not. No,
this judge in your mother's case, in the
Mary
Sykes
case. Oh, she left the country. She just, on her own volition, picked up and left the country. So our judge left, and she went to Texas. I don't know how much safety that is for anybody else.
The point here is that we rely upon the judiciary. When the judiciary doesn't do their job, they breach the public trust, and we got a very serious problem.
Oh, indeed.
During the years I practiced, I'd say 99% of the judges I dealt with were pretty good. But that 1%.
But see, Ken, I'm telling you, when that era, it's in a circle, and when that era fades out, those people pass on. You get a new breed that don't really care what the law said. They bought their way into the judiciary, and they're now a judge. And if they had to do it by whatever means they had to do it, they still have the little thing that says judge on it. And therefore, they feel they are king. That's it. They are emperor. They can do what they want in their courtroom. They take lives.
Oh, unfortunately.
They take lives.
Unfortunately, you're absolutely true. It's absolutely correct. And that's part of the problem. This whole situation is being swept under the rug. Now, they had a Formas case. It was scheduled for March. It didn't go ahead.
And we talked about this last year yet. Last year.
It's got to go ahead, and this Formas has to be tried.
And he's worth what, $1 billion?
He stole $1 billion. He's got 30-some nursing homes that he runs between here and Florida. He and his father run an operation that's short of incredible. If you look at that nursing home in Hollywood Hills where the 12 people died, that was one of his initially, and then he transferred to some guy at the Larkin, who was president of the Larkin Hospital down in Florida, which is incredible. The people taken in there were living in conditions that were untenable. And the government was paying them, paying for that service.
They didn't even care.
They don't care, because we have a whole situation where it's worthwhile to the politicians to keep these places open. And why is it? We got an election coming up.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you that 99% of the people in those corrupt facilities will vote for the party in power, the dominant political party. I found that out in that Brewer case. It absolutely shocked me. And Mr. Brewer, when he hired a public relations firm to help him get elected, they knew, and everybody knew, that Brewer was probably the most qualified person to ever run for alderman any place. He's a city planner. He's an architect. He understands what's involved.
Sure.
Got a real professional running. He ran against Bernie Stone. Bernie Stone was way past his prime when he ran. I liked Bernie, and Bernie was a friend of mine from almost day one of practice.
Wow.
and Bernie beat him 2-1. Every nursing home
Voted,
went
yeah.
for Bernie,
Yeah.
including people who've been lifelong Republicans and wouldn't know how to vote for a Democrat. They voted.
And they still
They voted, yeah.
they voted. He still got the vote.
And some people who had died
They
voted
too
for him
voted
too.
for him too. Look, you can't be much better than being in the grave and still voting for
Oh,
the
you
guy.
remember
like-
Victor Marzullo?
Oh, Victor Marzullo.
He
Yeah,
said that just because somebody dies, they should not lose their franchise to
The
vote.
vote. Oh my goodness, my goodness.
But that's what we're faced with.
Yeah.
And with the votes, the money,
the corruption.
the
is there.
politicians have nothing.
Yeah.
And some of the politicians, I remember, I think it was in the 10th Ward, somebody, there was a dispute between the current representative and the nursing home people, and they put up their own candidate, that young guy who was so attractive. And then something happened, and they dropped him like a stone.
I can't. I'm trying to recall. What? Tell me.
There was somebody ran against Jan Jakowski.
Jan Jakowski. That's the one at Evanston.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And apparently she had some fight with the nursing home people, and they ran their own people. And he was really running heavy. People were talking about him. And all of a sudden they switched. I don't know what happened.
What was that? What was that? What was the?
I don't know. I have no idea. I wasn't privy to it. It's just kind of suspicious, isn't it?
Better than suspicious. I mean,
And this goes on all across the country.
what is this? A buyout? Do they do that? Do they buy them out? They don't. They don't
Well,
physically harm them.
according to the indictment that came down against Philip Isformis, apparently that's exactly
They
what
buy
what
them
they're
out.
doing.
Who's courageous enough to write a book, to do you're retired now. Come on, your time is your own. You could be known now as a writer, and this is real life stories. You put them together chapter by chapter. And if you say Illinois is corrupt, and I say Illinois is corrupt, and everybody else says Illinois is corrupt because people are moving out. They can't tolerate the taxes. They can't tolerate the aldermen. They can't tolerate the governorship. They can't tolerate anything.
We don't even get a
in
fair deal on
office.
the weather.
That's right, the weather. This is true. But, if you're saying it's happening all over, here we are in Illinois. How much better can you have it to be a writer and write these true stories?
People are
here?
writing. People are writing. Janet Phelan wrote.
Janet Phelan,
wrote.
yeah.
Dr. Sugar just came out with a book on guardianship,
Yeah.
and he's pretty brutal as to his analysis of it. He's looking at it and looking at it from a very important standpoint. Wyman wrote a book about
That's right, his
about
mother.
his mother.
He had to go take his mother and go run to Colorado with her.
Exactly.
He
So
was
there are
afraid.
books being written.
Yeah.
The problem is no one cares.
Well, how do we
Until
get them to care?
I don't know. Somebody asked me. I was gave a talk at the North Shore Senior Center. I think it was last Tuesday or something like that. And somebody asked me, "What do we do?" And the answer is, "I don't know."
Well,
I saw that with Boston Legal, they went and beat up the Guardian. Now we have a well-developed mafia over here. I think they still have people. Maybe we should put some money aside and follow the example of Boston.
but they do things legal now. They've cleaned up their act. They are who they are, but they go under the premise that this is all clean and honorable. So
The thing has to happen is
you can't torch them all.
But we have to clean the swamp. We
Let's
we
do
really
it.
have to drain the swamp.
Do you think that we who have suffered as family members don't want to do that? Of course we do.
No, they don't. No, they don't. That's the problem that does
Why?
exist. There's an attorney who you know who has really suffered. She's taken a real beating on it.
True.
And you mentioned solutions that don't focus directly on the guardianship, but focus on similar things that are
Yeah.
going on. And she's very reluctant
Why?
because people are reluctant. People,
Is it a threat? A life threat against her?
no, it's just people have been conditioned to accept certain things.
No. I can't. I thoroughly do not believe that conditioning. When it's wrong, it's wrong. You can't be conditioned unless someone
Look at the
terrifies
corruption
you.
in the city government.
Oh, good grief!
Okay,
Yes.
how many people vote against the current city government? In the state, how many vote against the corruption? Look at how easily Mike Madigan gets reelected.
42 years at the same position. He's the emperor of the entire state of
How
Illinois.
does that occur?
It's corruption.
That's exactly right.
Everybody
And-
pays somebody off. It's not that there's
but
fear.
they pay. There are people.
Nobody's
here,
paid me off.
Just take Highland Park. How many people vote for Mike Madigan's candidates, knowing very well
That he's corrupt.
that he's corrupt and they are adding to the corruption? Go statewide, go any place you have. We have a candidate running for governor who actually cheated on his real estate taxes. It was reported in the Tribune, and is now telling us that he wants to increase our taxes.
Ugh.
Of course, he's saying we're going to increase the taxes for the rich.
Oh, sure.
You know who the rich are? You.
Oh, please.
Because that's who ultimately winds up paying it. How many people vote for him? I'll bet you he gets elected.
It's the poor middle class. We all get stepped on. I don't understand how.
And it's the poor middle class who will vote for him.
No, I wouldn't vote that way. No.
But you'll see it. You'll see it. That's part of the problem.
As a matter of fact, I like to know the backgrounds of all these people. I like to know who and what they've done for community or humanity or anything that you can show me is good. And then I'll consider a vote for you because I know that if you've done good for other people, you will be able to do good for me. I don't see any of that, Ken, anywhere. I see none of that. Why not?
Just ask your friends who they're going to vote for.
That's pathetic.
And you think that on the other side you got a better candidate?
No, see, it's the better of the two evils.
You have a choice when you go in the voting booth. Do you like the deep blue sea, or do you like the devil? You got a choice.
I said it's the better of the two evils. Oh
But
my!
this is what you're boiling down to. Why can't we get candidates out there who are working for us, who care about us?
Yeah,
Why
but-
should I have to write Senator Durbin and get back that stupid letter?
Oh, that was dumb. That was.
And he's not. He hasn't apologized for it. He hasn't done anything.
Why would he? He's sitting. Can you not see where he was today?
And he doesn't. He'll be reelected.
Senate-
He'll be elected.
Elected.
You know, it's kind of funny because when I was in law school, one of the issues was brought up was this question of zoning, and somebody presented the idea: what if God were to move on your block? How many people would say, "Oh, that's wonderful. We have the most perfect entity in the universe moving on our block."
A divinity, okay.
I'll bet you every one of your neighbors would complain. There'd be too much traffic. Who wants someone there who's that holy?
Yeah, too perfect.
Yeah. That's part of the situation. But what we have to do is we have to narrow it down and focus on it. And that's where things have to come.
You know, we have narrowed it down. We have given this, we've beaten this subject up till it's black and blue. But no one is stepping forward. You would have an army of voters. If you don't want to think of them as humanity, let's think of them as voters. A sea of voters who would put you in office if you just do something to correct the wrong that has been habitually created by corruption.
But that isn't going to happen.
Because these people are taking other people's lives. These aged people, their lives. The money is there. Money will always be there. Money. The money changes hands. It doesn't know if it's going into a senior citizen or a 12-year-old or a 3-year-old. The money is there. But the person's life, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, that's true.
It never comes back.
That's true, but we can't seem to sell it.
Unless we get the Long Island medium, and I've been watching her. This is very interesting. And if we get the Long Island medium to come down, this would be a good thing, you know.
Well, we got one of the things that is happening, and when things look pretty dark, a little light starts to pop in there, and as Forma's case offers that opportunity, because piece by piece the government's putting together a case. They've done some stupid things. They raided the office of one of his Formas's attorneys.
Oh.
Same thing they did to Mr. Cohn.
Yeah.
And his Formas attorneys are raising holy hell. I can't find articles on it, but I know from going through Google. I go through Google so often that I get a stack of advertisements for retirement homes.
Sure.
You don't have to, that's this thing that's going on with Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, Google does the same thing because I keep
circulating.
watching it. But the government did this, and I think his Formas set him up. I think he set up his lawyer with an office in one of his nursing homes, and the government went in and grabbed everything. And
they should have grabbed him and put him in jail.
Well, he is in jail.
Prison. Jail, I was told, only goes up to 12 months. Prison goes further.
Well, he's been there more than 12 months.
Oh.
He's been in the correction center for more than 12 months. But we have the public official who got 57 months in jail and fined. We've got
not enough time.
We've got some other people but they're going to testify against him.
Okay. Oh, all right.
And the government's building a very, very solid case. And one of the things that's going on was there's at least one nursing home operator who was talking to the Fed.
Yeah.
And was cooperating with them. Seth Gilman was reported to do something. And now there's a rumor going around, and I don't know how accurate it is, that Philip is starting to talk.
Oh, that's the kid.
Or Philip wants to talk.
Well, he's not a kid, but he's in his
50
40s,
years old.
Yeah, 50.
At my age, you're a kid. But the situation is the cancer is starting to come out from the sides.
Okay.
And this thing that occurred last summer, where the 12 people died at Hollywood Hills.
With a hospital right across the street.
That's exactly right.
Oh.
And the cover-up. They had judges who were going to enjoin the state from closing the facility.
Terrible.
It hits a critical mass. And if somehow that critical mass is broken, we're going to get the swamp drained.
Well, it can drain the swamp, but I don't know where the alligators are going to go. They may change into something else, but you know.
We're going to get some cleanup. It's got to come.
I know, but in the interim, what do these people do trying to hold on to life when you get someone like we had, Kawamoto, who forbid us to even see my mother? I mean, that's terrible.
Well, you know, there's something else going on here.
I'm her only daughter and wasn't allowed to see her.
I know.
So what do we do? What do we do, Ken?
Well, we fight it. We fight and we keep on pushing.
We're fighting. I'm doing as much as I can do. But, you know, all those, it's too late for my mother, but all those that are still clinging to life and to breath, what do we do to make sure that they have security of that?
Well, one of the selling points is you make the politicians realize that they have something to gain. And they do have something to gain. And this may be the idea of, this may be figuratively beating up the Guardian. Every healthcare program that's been put out has failed and will fail. Except they don't have to fail. There's a very simple solution. And that simple solution is crack down on the fraud.
Sure.
$19 billion, instead of putting it in the hands of the criminals, can be used for health care.
For the people who need it.
That's exactly right. That $19 billion can be used. Now, let's talk about other things. You talk about the overprice on drugs. That doesn't have to happen. It can be worked out. You don't have to have 700-800% surcharges on it.
Well, and the fraud in Medicare that they perpetrated on my mother, and we were billed for it. We were billed for it. 7 X-rays of the same chest X-rays, 7 times in one day at $700 a piece. What? I even called the nursing home in downtown Chicago.
You see what I mean? If the government refused to pay for it and the state refused to pay for it, it wouldn't happen.
And then they said, well, must have been a mistake, but we got the bill. Medicare paid for it. I called the hotline for fraud. They didn't want to do anything about it. I called.
And that's the problem. They didn't want to do anything about
No,
it
they
because they're
didn't.
paid off.
Well-
And that's where we have to go. And that's the Justice Department.
Well, then I called. That was the federal. The feds, and then I called down to Madigan's office, Lisa Madigan's office, and I told Madigan's office, I didn't talk with her, I spoke
You
with...
could have called Mr. Menestopheles.
Actually, probably that would have been. And they told me, we don't do that.
Of course not. Get rid of fraud?
I said-
the Attorney General's office get rid of fraud?
Lisa
That's
Madigan's
heresy.
office. And then the lady on the other end told me, she said, we don't do anything like this for private care people. We only protect the professionals. I said, what? I said, I'm telling you that my mother's estate, we're being ripped off by the nursing home, the Medicare. They're stealing the Medicare. It's saying that we owe $700 per X-ray,
you expected-
7 times a day.
You expected the Attorney General of the state of Illinois to worry about criminals stealing from the state?
She's in her 90s, and there was something wrong with her except arthritis. And she died from dehydration and starvation because they put a tube in her stomach. They didn't want to spend the time to feed her, but yet they were collecting $15,000 a month for this disastrous lack of care. And the nursing home is downtown Chicago on Oak Street.
And you expect either the state's attorney of Cook County or the attorney general of the state of Illinois to be
Attorney
concerned
General.
about that? They're out there to protect the people who are doing this to your mother.
That's what she told me, and I said I couldn't believe my ears. Ken, I got my hand to God, I swear, I couldn't believe my ears. I said, but I'm calling you to ask for help and assistance to look into this. There is fraud going on. And she kept saying, listen, lady, I'm telling you, we don't help people like this. We help the professionals.
Of course
and that
not.
means the nursing home, the nurses, everybody that was there to destroy, they're out to protect. And we, the people who pay their salary and promote the properties of professionalism in the state of Illinois, are being stepped on and robbed, murdered and robbed.
And half the people who are being harmed will go out and vote for the very people, for attorney general, for whatever, that are doing this to them.
Terrible.
So what basically has to happen is we have to convince the politician that it's in their
The
best
only way to
interest.
convince them is kick them out of office. You know, I'm happy to give them a brand new broom, and whichever way they want to use it, they're happy to do so. I'm happy to do so. I'd rather sweep them out of office and put somebody else in.
Yeah, but it's not-
And term limits,
but-
term limits.
But unfortunately,
2 terms.
unfortunately, you're in a minority. You're in a minority.
Well,
because
I'm a
people-
woman, absolutely. I could imagine.
It doesn't matter if you're a woman. The fact is, you're fighting City Hall, and most people, especially people in the metropolitan areas, will go along with City Hall even if it's against their best interests.
No, not good.
So
not good.
so the solution has to be in criminal prosecutions and
Yeah, but if you're going before a judge who he or she, they themselves are corrupt, so where does this go? It gets you nowhere.
Well, the Asformis case is moving ahead, and it's opening up doors.
Now, this is going to show light on all those on the 18th floor and the Daily
Ultimately,
Center
yes. Ultimately, yes. Because
and all those souls
because
that were
it's-
lost
because
there.
it's a crack. It's a crack in the mantra. You have to start somewhere. You can't knock down the wall. You got to break into it and weaken its structure. And this is what's happening, and this is part of the reason that you're running against such opposition.
Well, other family members, not only in ours, but that we've connected with over the years, are very strong, still wanting to be able to have their voice heard, their story told, and to remove these people that are so corrupt they care nothing of life, limb, or
It's very
of
different.
anything.
This is the reason that my cry for an honest investigation got such a negative reaction. And it's absolutely funny.
Oh my.
The very idea, that Cynthia Franga's letter to the ARDC complaining about probate sharks carrying that statement of mine, I want an honest investigation of the Sykes case. That was considered to be ethically challenged.
That's that incredible. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
But it's going to be, it's part of the situation. We are fighting City Hall, and we are fighting uphill battle. But if the ambitious politician who's interested in health care wants to give us health care, he has the funding right there. Take that money away from the criminals and give it towards the health care program. It's simple, and it's right out in the open.
Well, it's easy to say, hard to do. However, if you want to drain the swamp, it's best to get the alligators out of there first, because it's not fit for man nor beast. Not even saying alligators, but it's got to be done because
Yeah, you might not be politically correct in
hu-
discussing alligators.
The hum-
They're crocodiles. You're discriminating against a
I'm
whole series
sorry.
of
well,
reptilians.
Well, I'm not going to give them a hot rock to lay on. I'll tell you right now, to warm their blood. They don't have any blood to warm. But the stench is getting really bad from the swamp, and they carry disease, and this is all metaphorically, of course. And the bugs that come out of there are mosquitoes, and those are the politicians that permeate the air that we breathe.
Well,
and
we have to do something. And unfortunately, it's not going to work very quickly. It's going to take time. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Oh.
And
look what they did to Caesar. Talk about it.
Well,
They didn't
okay.
only beat him up; they got rid of him. They did it the Roman way. That's where the mafia stops.
We could start what's a pay me, whatever that
Pay me now or pay me
what's
later.
that thing that goes on social media that you beg for money.
Oh, it's a page. What do you call it?
Whatever. We could have one of those pages and put together money to buy a hitman. Take the corrupt ones out one at a time.
But of course, they're the ones that are doing the hit. The corrupt ones.
Well, they're hitting. They're hitting
GoFundMe page.
GoFundMe, right?
GoFundMe page. Yeah.
Yeah, we can start a GoFundMe page, and pick
Who we
one of
want.
the criminals at a time. I don't know how much it costs these days to.
I have these days. I don't know what they want.
Well, it used to run about $100.
Well, that was then. But look what's happening to the FBI and the CIA. I mean, there's corruption all over. Who would believe? I mean, who really would believe that the director of the FBI would be as corrupt as he is? And not saying was, is. Even though he is not a part of that any longer. This is just incredible.
We got some real.
This is
we got- we
really,
got-
really bad, Ken. Really bad. Our hopes, the American public would always say, oh, the feds are the best guys. Call them in and they'll clean everything up. And look what we're learning when it's going down the line.
Well, we're looking at the FBI could change his letters to something else, more Soviet.
Let's see. And it's not from the bottom up. We're working from the top down. It's rotten to the core.
Well.
From the top down.
Well, that's part of the problem. It's part of the problem we have with the guardianship too. This whole guardianship thing. Do you realize if we got some of the better judges?
No, not
transfer-
better. Don't say better. Honest.
Honest.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all good, but we're
They're
talking about.
not all good, but there's a whole cadre of judges who you can go before and get a good trial and get a fair ruling.
fair and honest. Sure.
And those judges are assigned the jury calendars, to chancery calendars.
But
But
you
your
never-
cafeteria courts, you get the younger judges or the new judges,
Yeah.
and you get riffraff.
This is what I'm saying
And
to you.
that judge who was in that Sykes case admitted that she was wired.
I was in the courtroom. I heard that.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing that someone like that not only could be reslated,
She lied.
but brought to the appellate court.
Yeah. Well, they instead of demoting her, they promoted her.
Yeah.
They do that. To get them out of that mixture, they put her to a higher rank, so she can cause more ruin and wreak havoc on the public.
This is a judge who defied the statute
Yeah, this
that's required.
shows.
It's required by the 5th, the 14th
Yep.
Amendment.
this shows that she can do it in your face. I sat there and I couldn't believe my ears when I heard her say, yes, of course she knew this was wrong. And how she did it, and nobody even slapped her on the hand, nothing. And she walked out of the courtroom like everybody else did. And she was no worse for the wear.
This is our problem.
And she told the truth.
Well, thank God she told the truth.
She told the truth. But
It doesn't matter.
But she was no worse for the wear because wasn't going to go anywhere.
Of course not.
She was in safe hands.
It was fixed.
That they were fraud to begin with. But she could say anything she wanted in there.
But you're going to have. But you see, now we got to focus in, and the focus has to be on putting someone like Isformis in jail.
Oh,
for a
life.
long
life.
time.
Not just serve a couple of whatever. But see, he's got billions of dollars, and he'll buy his way out unless they catch somebody else.
Well, we got to stop that. Got to keep keep focusing on it. And there are others there. You know, basically, he's a small player compared to some of the others, compared to the people in New York and some of the other places.
Yeah. This is true.
And we have some big fish right here who are getting away with it.
Yeah, God, terrible.
But if we don't focus in on them and can't get the government to focus in on them, then we've got a problem.
Well, we need to know who to vote for. See, now we've got up and coming election in the next couple of months.
Who do you like, the devil or Deep Blue Sea?
Again, you say that, and I don't.
Those are the candidates.
Either.
Those are our candidates.
I don't like either. I prefer heavenly bodies, the divine,
but
the
divinity. But he moved on your block. I joined with you in the protest to keep him out of the neighborhood. You realize you destroy the neighborhood?
Well, I'm telling you, I prefer
just
that.
the crowds would destroy the neighborhood.
I prefer that than the bed and breakfast that we got going. It's really bad. I mean, we really need to know these people who are running for office. This is.
But you didn't answer my question. Who do you like?
I'm not going to answer it. We'll have to do that.
Devil or Deep Blue Sea?
We'll have to do that for the next show. Do I hear my music playing? I do. Yeah, I can't believe it, times are. Well, Ken, you're always wonderful. When you come on, it's always fresh air and wonderful information. I hope that you enjoy this evening's program, and we love to have Ken Dukowski on always, anytime with information. So thank you for coming.
You're certainly welcome.
And thank you, my audience, for allowing us in your home or place of business, and have a pleasant evening and a very fine week. And this too shall pass. That's what they say. And so we hope to see fraud eradicated, permanently eradicated. Take care. Visit us on our YouTube and have a wonderful week. See you next week on North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. Good evening.